Good morning. It's Morning Huddle time. Chad Prinky here, as always, along with my good friend, producer, co-host extraordinaire, Stacey
Stop.
Holder. Stacey,
Hey, how do you want us to install this water heater? And then my coworker was like, I don't know, install the water heater. Like, why are you even asking me? He's like, well, I don't know if you know, but what you designed, it can't physically fit through the front door of this building.
My class is only 40 minutes. So we have to get this done in 40 minutes. You have to clean up in 40 minutes. And then it also, when you use the miter saw, a lot of kids are scared of the miter saw, and you just see the difference in their confidence when they come in here compared to when they leave. They're excited.
Be announcing a new county that's going to join us in Maryland, so we continue to spread it. And I'll say my peers across the country are starting to take this and adopt this at their local IEC chapters.
Either AI assistant tools, you have AI master builder tools, and then you have kind of a bit of both that are 1 foot in BIM, in current processes, and 1 foot in AI.
Said, Brett, in life, opportunity meets you at your level of preparation.
She said, here's the keys, go forth and do great things.
good morning. It is Morning Huddle time. Chad Prinky here alongside our guest this morning, Jennifer Todd. Jennifer, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm excellent. Thank you very much. Though I'm sad that we're missing Stacey. I just got one of those like, OMG, gotta go. Can't make it this morning. We'll catch up later, which is a very rare experience for Stacey. I'm certainly hoping everything's all right, but I'm definitely imagining there's kids and maybe something gross and it just I hope it's on that order. I genuinely do. So Stacey,
I'm very sad that Stacey is not with us today. So I wish that she was here because I was so looking. I mean, I wanted to see you, but I wanted to see Stacey too. So
I don't, and the feeling is mutual, right? Genuinely, I always look forward to seeing Stacey. I always look forward to meeting our new guest, but Stacey sincerely has been pressing on me, well, on you, frankly, for a couple of years now to get you onto the show. And she's a big fan of yours. And, she has been prioritizing, finding a way to get you here. And so we finally got you here and Stacey couldn't make it, which is just the way the world works sometimes.
I know it is such a bummer because she has been very proactive about me coming onto your show. So I'm happy to be here this afternoon. Well, yeah, I guess this morning, technically.
We are, yeah, that's right. We're thrilled to have you, and I'll do a brief introduction, then I want to hear your story. So Jennifer Todd is an extremely busy person. Jennifer Todd is Jennifer speaks, does a lot of public speaking. She is an engineer and she's a founder of two different organizations, the A Greener Tomorrow, which is, I'll let her talk all about it, but it's a nonprofit that's focused in the construction industry. And then also the LMS General Contractors, which is a general contractor as well as earthwork, environmental, large-scale demo, and things like that. And so with all of these sort of different things in the air, on top of it, Jennifer's also been extremely active and successful on the social media platforms and yada, yada. So, which is how we came to get exposure to Jennifer's message, which is overall about, I think, many, many things, but the things that have caught our eyes are overall about the value of diversity inside the construction industry and what we should all be thinking about and trying to do different from what we've always done to make it a better place for everyone. So with that, Jennifer, what did I miss? And I'd love to, have you stack on top of that, kind of how you got where you got to and give our audience some context.
No, Chad, I think you hit the high notes. So I think that's a good summary. I've been in the construction industry for about 16 years now and graduated from Georgia State University. And like most college students, I was without a job. And so I ended up at a construction office as a receptionist, and the rest is really essentially history. So today I am the proud owner of LMS General Contractors, and as you mentioned, we do general contracting work, but we do a lot of demolition, full structure, as well as remediation. So think asbestos, lead, mold, and more recently, I am the proud owner also of A Greener Tomorrow, which is a 501c3. And initially, we created this nonprofit as an apprenticeship program that we had already built into LMS. And the goal was to ensure that people who look like me, men and women, had the opportunity to uh, become trained in heavy equipment and remediation. And
Mm-hmm.
so through those efforts, I've seen what it's like to be a woman in the industry and to definitely be a Black woman and person of color within the industry. And so this year in 2024, I said, let's focus on the women because there is a disconnect when it comes to the biases and uh, harassment and issues that we'll surely get into, excuse me, when it comes to women in construction. So we decided to create a series called Women at Work Breaking Barriers, which is going to air digitally on YouTube this summer. And so it just highlights what it's like to be a woman, the challenges that she faced, and how she's able to overcome them throughout her career. Because there are a lot of Jennifers out there, but it's just that we don't get a chance to see them, which contributes to the biases that we have when we are working with other people unlike ourselves.
Yeah, totally agree. That's so again, it's called Women at Work Breaking Barriers. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. That's I love that. And I'm sure you're aware of different friends of ours. I'm sure we share plenty of mutual friends, as we've talked about topics like these in our 72 previous episodes, some of our previous 72 previous episodes, and one of the thoughts that sticks out most to me from Andrea Jansen, actually a recent guest and friend of ours. I don't know if you know each other. If you don't, you should. I'm seeing
We
your head
do.
nod.
We do. I
All right,
know
cool.
Andrea and I love
She's
Andrea.
awesome. And one of the things that she says that rings in my ears and that sounds like exactly the mission of this series is if you can see it, you can be it.
Yep.
And it's that whole concept of, we're not seeing enough women in construction, therefore women aren't seeing themselves in construction. We're not seeing enough women in leadership in construction, therefore we're not seeing women feel take leadership roles, feel like they can take leadership roles in construction. And not just the women, right? Like that, let's not put the onus on women. Let's also put the onus on the rest of the team to consider women in leadership roles and think about their own contribution to either their climbing or staying same in their position. So I love it. I think that's fantastic. So is that going to be you say YouTube?
Yeah, it's going to be on YouTube, and we're really excited to have so many people and organizations that are interested in it, and to have John Deere as our title sponsor. So we went to them with the idea. They immediately said yes, and so we're happy that they are a partner of ours on this project.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. I'll definitely be keeping my eye out, and we'll do our best to help to cross promote there as you get closer to that. I'll be helping to spread the word for sure, Stacey.
I'm going to hold you to it, so okay?
We will. No, it's great. I mean, assuming it's awesome, which it's
It's
got to be
coming from
great
me,
first.
so what else would it be? Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I'm thinking. But all right, cool. So let's talk today's topic. We're going to talk about unconscious bias, and I want to understand at a foundational starting point. Let's define what that means. I think over the past 3 to 5 years, people have become more and more aware of the concept. It's become more commonplace, but still, I think, is a reach for a lot of folks, particularly in the construction industry. It's just not been maybe forefront. So define the term a little bit with us, if you would.
I cannot give you the textbook definition,
Yeah.
but for me, I will say when I consider unconscious bias, I think it's really about the unfamiliar subconscious thoughts that we have about others uh, throughout our personal, workplace, career lives, based on our lived experiences or limited scope of experiences. And so it's almost as if, ignorance by defense until you understand what it is that you are being biased against. But that requires a little work. So,
I like it.
Self-awareness.
So I always think about like uh, people are walking around believing all kinds of things all the time. And many of those beliefs are not beliefs they have actually inspected, right? So they've got
Trust but
beliefs,
verify, right?
right? Exactly. They haven't been verified. They haven't inspected. They haven't been verified. But we're believing them nonetheless. And that to me is what you described, is that we're carrying around all these thoughts from learned experiences, from our limited scope of experiences. We've got beliefs. And a lot of those beliefs we haven't even pulled off the shelf, dusted off, inspected, and checked for validity.
And also not just that, but when we say limited experiences, I'm also referencing things that were ingrained in you, that you were taught, or that
Mm.
was around you when you were a kid. Those things, make a difference as well as to what you believe. And prior to psychology, prior to coming into construction, my bachelor's degree was in psychology. So if I took nothing else from the experience, is that your mind is very strong and you can make it believe anything that you want it to believe. And it doesn't like to be challenged. And so if you're telling me that my hair is not purple, even if it's not purple, but I believe it's purple, then you're challenging my thought processes. And if my hair is not purple and I believe that, then who am I if my hair isn't purple? Because now I have to question everything about my beliefs.
Man, yeah, that's right. It's really a it can be a very painful experience to have to challenge one's own beliefs. And I think so. You and I talked a little bit, before we went live today, and I think any conversation about unconscious bias, and I do want to talk about it specifically in the construction industry, but I think any conversation about unconscious bias must include advice for how to overcome unconscious bias, how to deal with that in general as any human, whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's a person twice our age working in Canada. It doesn't matter, right? Like we all have it. How do we overcome it when we want to?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do to overcome it is to acknowledge that we may just be wrong about some of the things that we believe. And that requires a lot of internal dialogue, especially when you're in the workplace, because you don't want to be questioned, or you don't want to be presumed as something racist or prejudiced or
Right.
sexist or
Right.
any of those things. So acknowledging that you may not have all the answers, or that you may have some biases that you're unaware about.
And I think that's got to go. I totally agree with you. And I think that's got to go deeper than just that surface level, kind of throwaway line that sometimes people will have, which is like, I might be wrong, but right. Like when you say I might be wrong, but, and you, it's clearly not in your heart. That's not it. It's not just saying the words. You actually have to be open to the possibility of being wrong, and recognize that you probably are wrong about lots of stuff. So that's
It's
the
kind of
prerequisite.
Yeah, it's kind of like that apology. It's like, I apologize, but I'm sorry, but, and it's like, as soon as you put the but, that changes the entire scope of what we're talking about. If you're really sincere, or you're really acknowledging, the error or the wrong.
That's right. That's right. So it's got to be a deep willingness and recognition that, again, I think this is the X factor. It's not just I could be wrong. It's I'm certain I am wrong about a lot of things. I know that to be like, I learn every day, and I frequently go, huh, like I thought this and now I realize that. And that takes some humility and some curiosity and maybe even courage to right,
Lots
because
of
that
courage.
why courage?
It definitely takes, because for so long, if you've thought that one way, and let's get even to the construction industry, if we thought that there was only one type of person that could do the work, if only men could do the work, then of course we're not seeking women out to do those same skills and those same trades. And so, of course, we're going to have a labor shortage. If we're only seeking 86% of the construction industry are white and male. And if we're only seeking those individuals out, of course, we're going to lack diversity, equity, and inclusion. Of course, it's not going to look like the United States because that's not what we've targeted, because we collectively as a industry have conditioned ourselves to think that these are the people who can do the jobs that need to be done.
Yeah. We've created our own environment.
We've created our own monster. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. So if it starts with a willingness to be wrong and a belief that in fact we are wrong about some of the things that we currently believe, what's the next step for overcoming bias, for overcoming unconscious bias?
I think everything else is easy, because that's the hardest part, is acknowledging that there is a wrong, or there could be some change that needs to happen, or you could have made a misstep. That is the hard part. That's the mindset part of changing the mindset. Everything else is like strategy. Okay, so now what can we do? Okay, let's implement some solutions. Let's try some other resolutions to see what will make a difference. Let's acknowledge, okay, we acknowledge there are no women in the room. How can we get women in the room? Okay, then let's get women in the room. Everything else is easy after that.
Right.
But it's the part of having to make the change, and that's the most difficult thing for people, and especially companies, because no one wants to look bad or no one wants to do it the wrong way, so they may do nothing.
Makes sense. We on the show, one of the topics we've talked about a lot is inclusion, and this idea of creating a construction industry where people do not feel excluded from the conversation, where they don't feel excluded from either joining the industry or excluded from joining certain roles within the industry, field roles, leadership roles, fill in the blanks. How do you think unconscious bias can hinder the development of a truly inclusive workforce in construction?
I think the better question is, how has it hindered
Hmm.
the construction industry? We know that the construction industry has been hindered by the lack of diversity through the labor shortage that we have today. When we look at the US Census, 50.5% of the population are women. 49.5% of the US population identify as a minority. Yet 86% of the construction industry are white men. The math isn't mathing. Because if we were more inclusive, we wouldn't have 1 million jobs that need to be filled, because we would showcase the diversity and the equitable solutions by hiring women and minorities to fill the void, as well as young people. We have 177 million of those. And so we only need 1 million jobs. And not every single one of them wants to be an athlete or a musician or a TikTok star. There's got to be a few in there. Give me at least 250,000 who are willing to do the trades if we show them what it looks like, if we show them themselves, if they can see themselves doing the work.
Mhm.
And we can show that we care, because millennials and Gen Zs care about who they work for. They care about, the politics. They care about the social issues. They care about flexibility. They care about if they go to your website and if they see themselves. And if they don't, they're not even going to apply at your company. It's not enough to have a byline to say we believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And really, at this point, you can't afford not to care, because you need people. And the reality is, if you want to fill the jobs today in construction, you're going to have to go to diverse people. You're going to have to talk to women. You're going to have to talk to minorities. You're going to have to talk to the youth. And if you're not ready to talk to those three groups of people, you're not ready to have a construction business.
So one of the things that I'm sitting here thinking, I don't expect you to have a bunch of numbers off the top of your head, but help me to square one thought, which is I have recognized a substantial number of Hispanic workers in field roles, and also Asian workers in field roles, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, and what I noticed when you said white men, I thought men for sure. I definitely see that, but I didn't. But when you said white, I thought, man, really? Because I thought I would perceive that field roles are actually, maybe lopsided toward at this point Hispanic males. But I don't know. Is that a bias? is that my own sort of
Well,
perception playing a trick on me?
Well, it may or may not be. It may be just be demographically where you live. So
Okay.
that could be in part of what you're accustomed to seeing. Could it
Yeah.
slightly be perceived as a bias? Maybe, maybe
Yeah.
not. It just depends on. To me, I wouldn't even delve that deep and say, "Hey, you're being biased by saying that." It's just like, "Hey, this is." If you live in Texas or if you live in California or you live in Arizona, Nevada, that just may be what you see primarily. I mean, I've worked in 10 states, so I've seen different things depending on
Yeah.
where we're working at. But I guess the main thing would be is that there are biases when it comes to who gets the work. I hear a lot from black workers that they're unable to get a job, but they say, hey, they will just hire the Hispanic workers and they won't necessarily hire the black workers to do
Yeah.
it. So.
Yep. No, and I've heard that same sentiment, and I believe firmly that the work that you're doing to bring more people from the black community, pardon me, from the black community into skilled trades is necessary and extremely valuable. There are there I think the black community is broadly underrepresented, that is, in the construction industry. And I look around and think, man, there's so much opportunity here, and we have to bridge the gap. We've got to bring people together to meet the opportunity. So I think that's
Yeah,
I think that's
and the
awesome.
thing about that is that when people, I completely agree with that. But also, let's keep in mind who built this country. And so we know that Black people are capable of doing construction because the structures that we have today in this country were built by enslaved Black people. So we know that they are capable and competent way before there was a PMP license or an engineer license or a GC license. They were able to commit to doing to the, not I won't say commit, they were able to do these things with
Mhm.
no quote unquote formal educational training. And so if we are going to have formal educational training and apprenticeship programs, which are much needed and viable across the country, anyone can do this work. Construction is, if we're talking about hard skills, we teach those, and that is not have to do with race or gender. You can teach anyone how to remove asbestos if they're willing to learn. You can teach anyone how to operate heavy equipment if they're willing to learn. It's about creating opportunities for other people to do the same thing that's being done across the country. Anyone can do it, male or female, despite their race.
Agreed. I love it. That's great. So the um what do we need to be teaching to um I'll call it people in management and leadership roles? What do people in those roles in the construction industry really need to be learning about to help them, to help the industry to recognize and grapple with its biases and make positive change?
I think we need to realize that people are not systems. Yes, we need systems in place, absolutely. But we need to treat people like people because it's not even so much as when we talk about the biases. Uh, the construction industry is, on paper, is unhappy. So the women aren't happy, the minorities aren't happy, people are struggling with their mental health. We have the fourth highest suicide rate per industry. So it's not even just the women and the minorities that are unhappy, it's people who look like you, Chad, that are unhappy too. They're just not saying anything.
Yep,
And
I agree.
so we have to get to a point where we are not just about project focused, but we are people focused because construction thrives on people. Regardless of what equipment that we use or what technology that we use, we are not just an AI industry at this point. We are still relying on human people who have lives and children and caretakers and obligations dealing with mental health, depression. I mean, So we just want to have more happy people coming to work and entering the construction field and staying there. And that's what needs to change. Not the focus on the systems, not just about being focused on the dollar. I get it from a business standpoint. I understand it. But what good is the dollar if you don't have solid people to do the work and who actually care about the work that they're doing?
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing, and maybe this is my translation of it. Please fix what doesn't make sense. But what I'm hearing is that if companies focus on being great places to work, if they focus on educational programs and creating the opportunity for people to be successful, and they focus on creating happy employees, then a, a, a lot of this will start to take care of itself. Is that maybe there's a bridge I might be missing, but that's a piece of what I'm hearing. Maybe fill in the blanks if I'm missing anything.
Yeah, I definitely think you're on the right track because it's about retention. So if anyone in the construction industry is talking about anything, they're talking about outreach, outreach, outreach. We need to outreach the young communities. We need to outreach to HBCUs. We need to outreach to women. But you're not talking to the people who currently there. Are your Black employees happy? No, they're not, because they're talking about you behind your back, despite your Black History message and the cute social media graphic. Are the women happy? No, because they're being tormented on the job site. They are not, because you're allowing James to run about and do whatever he wants because he's a good worker, when James has a problem with working with women.
Right.
It's like, are you creating an environment? No, because you have an insurance plan that will help your employees if they have mental health or drug abuse, and you could put them in rehab and it's not even going to affect your policy. But are you offering that? No. Are you offering therapy? No. Are you offering childcare? No. The flexibility. So are things that can be implemented and done if we're really having real conversations about helping people be people and understanding that your employee is just more than your employee. I think we saw that with COVID. Everyone wanted to stay home. Not everyone, but a lot of people wanted to stay home. And so companies found out that your employees aren't as happy as you think they are, that they are not your family, because they'd rather be at home with their families than be here being tormented in your office.
So thank you for that. I think that's great. It's what I'm hearing you say is there's a blend that were the outreach efforts. Hey, great. We're starting to make some really good outreach efforts. We're seeing a lot of that in some different spaces. I didn't hear you say that we're perfect there, right? And I don't think either of us believe that, but outreach efforts have got to be blended with retention efforts, and retention efforts really just focus on making sure you've got a great place. And in that you're addressing the needs and the wants of the workforce, and maybe putting those things over bottom line profit, with the recognition that you won't retain bottom line profit if you don't retain good people.
But you have to want to know. I mean, the bigger the organization is, the harder it is to be heard. I have friends that work at these huge construction companies, and there's so many layers to get to the truth. And even if the owner or the key stakeholders say, this is what we want, it is not trickling down to the bottom. Because as a contractor, I have reached out to organizations, huge, 500 million, 600 million, $700 million. And they say, Jennifer, this is what we want. This is what we're working towards. And they'll say, go to the regional office, and you go to the regional office person, and they're like, hell no, we're not doing that. We're not interested.
Yeah.
And so what? Am I going to go right back up the ladder and say, he says he's not interested? Okay, let me go back down. But if you have 1,000 employees, Jennifer is not the priority. But there are a lot of Jennifers out there that are the same contractors that may be small businesses, woman-owned businesses, or minority businesses that are facing the same trials and working with other contractors or reporting the issues. And so if I'm dealing with that as a contractor, I understand with the people on the inside of that organization, they're having even a harder time. because I can't believe that you are not treating if you are not treating the contractors and vendors, subcontractors that you're working with care. I know how you're treating the people that directly work for you. And I've had those conversations with those people. And so I understand that you don't really give a damn about what you're saying, because if you do, they will be happy first. And you don't have to do so much outreach, because isn't referral the best that's the best referral you can ever get? Is someone saying, I love working here. This is great. You should come work over here at my company.
Yep.
If
Yep.
people were saying that, you wouldn't have to push so hard, you know?
And we're talking about, I love the discussion, because we're not just talking about company policy, which I think is important, company policies and making sure that all those things are right. But we're talking about the human aspects of working for a company as well. You can have a company policy, you can have many company policies that are great in theory, but that if at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to leadership. This is something I constantly hammer on, is that I think it comes down to leadership, and leadership at every level, leadership at the lowest levels in the company, the field leadership that makes the decision on a daily basis for the kind of culture they're going to allow on their site, and that, the what they're going to, how they're going to talk to each other, the kind of respect they're going to show each other, that what's going to be acceptable and unacceptable. And really, if the policies for the company are just wonderful policies, but at the ground level they're not
They're
being
not being
carried out,
implemented.
right?
It's it's
I
great.
think and then it goes to the next layer of leadership, which is, does that leader allow this leader to have that kind of culture?
Yeah.
And that's where we start having to make hard decisions. And now we get to the workforce shortage, which is like, God, I can't afford to fire James.
Yeah.
So what do I
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
And this is,
But they're not, but you could, if you were doing what you needed to do and talking to your people first. And so that's what I tell people, like, how do you address unconscious bias? First, it's about being self-aware, to acknowledge that me, Jennifer, you know, I dated a guy with brown hair. So now I don't like anyone with brown hair. So anytime someone with brown hair comes in my office, I'm like, he's got hair like Chad. No, I don't like him. And so it's just that simple. And people think that it's so much more complicated than that. And it's like, hey, this person has a beard. My ex-husband has a beard. I don't like beard. So it's like, you're on this person, like, why are they on my beard? What's going on? It's like, this is triggering. And so it's the littlest thing like that we could have a bias about, because that's our lived experience, or this is what we were told. And so if we are willing to acknowledge that we may not always get it right, that's the first huge step. And so next, after that, it's about, if I am a leader, I need to talk to my employees and see, where am I missing the mark? Where is the company missing the mark? What can we do better? Simple questions. But people don't want to ask those questions because it will hurt their ego. And
yeah.
then they're not prepared for what people may say.
And I think this is one of the most uncomfortable aspects of it, is that we have to at some point we have to all confront, and as a company, I'll keep it at the company level, though I think we can also talk about a societal level, different topic, different day. That's a big, heavy
Yes.
topic. Right? But at a company level, we've got to talk about what's okay and not okay to believe, what's okay and not okay to walk around in your head, and what's okay and not okay, what's okay and not okay to act out, is really my point. And so I have been places, and I'm sure you have too, where certain things that I would consider to be not okay, mindsets that I would consider to be not okay, are nurtured amongst groups of people who are like, this is really the truth, right? This is really the truth. Whatever those mindsets are, be it toward the undocumented immigrant population, be that toward the Black population, be that toward, and fill in the blank, be that toward women, but where they will nurture bad beliefs. Now, they'll all say, like, I'm never going to act out those beliefs, but they'll secretly, like, they're all looking at each other and they believe those things. At a certain point, companies have to confront what's okay and not okay and what we believe. And because otherwise, I guess my point is, who's to tell me what's not okay? And I think when you're working for a paycheck at a company, the company's allowed to tell you that that's not okay. And if you're not okay with what that company says, then you can roll out. But companies, I think, need to set hard lines. Otherwise, we end up with people who defend, whose egos are offended when we say things like, hey, we absolutely do not, and we have no quarter for racism here, period. That's not something we do, right? And this is the kind of beliefs that are unacceptable, and these are the kind of behaviors that are unacceptable. And people need to believe those things. They need to go work somewhere else. If you have the courage to lay it out like that, I think it becomes something where, those people who want to harbor those beliefs will recognize that they probably actually, either need to have really hard confrontations with their own mindset, or they probably do need to leave. And I think societally we need to work on that. but at a company, you're allowed to lay out rules. And anyway, I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
I think it sounds good, but it looks better when it's implemented, because I know for certain that I have worked for people who were both sexist and racist.
Yep.
And so that didn't stop them from working, with me or for me. And that didn't necessarily entirely change their beliefs, because there are little things that are said that slip out. So, from a corporate or company perspective, I would say it sounds good to say those things, but it looks even better to do it.
Yeah.
And so, because I've heard those, hey, we don't stand for this, we won't tolerate it, and not even just from a bias standpoint, we won't tolerate alcohol and drugs, and I've seen drunk people on job sites. I've seen people who had a drug abuse problem on a job site. I've seen people who did unsafe things and they still had a job. And so it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to absolutely implement it and show that we don't do that. Because people, it's like children. If you tell your toddler to sit down, sit down, sit down, or I'm going to take the iPad, you're just making veiled threats. And it's like, yeah, 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 I'm still bouncing. But until you take the iPad, then the game has changed. And it's like, whoa, okay, now it's serious. And so
Now
until
it's serious.
yeah, it's like now I'm having a full meltdown because I could feel it. But before I said, yeah, they take, how they take a little pause and they try to test and see how serious are you if you're about taking that iPad. She didn't look that serious, so let me keep bouncing. But it's like, okay, I'll take the iPad. Now it's like, whoa, okay, it's gone. So now I can actually feel it. So people have to actually feel it, as in be reprimanded. Don't just
Absolutely.
say, we don't stand for it. It's like, okay, I don't care if James is the best operator that we have. If James is the problem, let me show you by showing what I'm willing to put on the line. Let's get rid of James.
So,
and until you do that, it's like, okay.
That brings
Sounds
us,
good.
I love that example. And I think that brings us, Jennifer, back to the concept of policy plus leadership. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be that manager, that leader who has the courage to say, James has got to go. And
Yep.
that manager's boss having the courage to support
That decision.
his or her, you know what I'm saying? To
Yep.
support that manager in their decision. And those are the hard decisions that great leaders make to support the right policy.
Yeah, because in real life, when we work at companies, we know what we can and cannot get away with. It's understood not by what's in the policy or the employee handbook that I sign, but through our interactions every day.
I
I
agree.
know that I am allowed to come 15 minutes late, not even though there's a policy that says I
It's never been
can't.
spoken.
But I know that if I'm 20 minutes late, it's a problem. But if I get there at the 14 and a half mark, it's no problem. And so we will continuously, as people, subconsciously test the boundaries of what we can and cannot do. And so if you continuously allow women to be harassed, if you continuously allow nooses to be on project sites, if you continuously say, young people don't want to work. And so you never go to any school, you never go to any college fair because why? They don't want to work. So if you continue to nurture your own beliefs versus defy the odds of thinking something differently, then you will get the same results because you need to support your own thoughts.
Love it. If you're my something you just inspired in me, and this is probably a quote from somebody else that I'm stealing. I have no idea, but something you had just inspired in me made me think. If you want to know which beliefs you need to change, take a look at the results that you don't like.
Hmm.
Because whatever results you have in your life that you're not happy with, you've probably got belief systems that you
That
are.
support those things.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. I could talk to you for hours. Is there anything else we haven't talked about that you want to make sure we fit into the conversation?
Yes, I because we are talking about unconscious bias, that is part of the reason that I decided to create the Breaking Barriers docuseries that A Greener Tomorrow is putting out this summer 2024. And it's really because I understand as a woman what it feels like to receive the bias. So when I walk into a room as a black woman, they're like, "Hey, who's she?" I don't know if she has a law degree or an engineering license or any expertise. I just see this person. And so it is so important for women to see more of themselves in a positive, constructive light and to see themselves on a regular basis. And so I hope to dispel some of the bias that women face, but also to showcase men that women from various backgrounds can still be successful and some of the hardships that they have to deal with in getting to that level of success in their careers due to the biases that they faced.
Awesome. I love it. All right, good. I am tuning in, like I said, and I'm expecting it to be awesome. And assuming it is, I will totally promote it.
Yes.
And can't wait to see what you're putting out there. And this is just this is not you said it earlier. It's not complicated, guys. This is not a hard topic. It's really about self-awareness, some courage, and at the end of the day, helping to reprogram our minds
Yeah.
to be much more something that we would choose as opposed to be something that we would just accidentally walk around believing. And if you would choose to be closed-minded, and if you would choose to be exclusive and rather than inclusive, and if you would choose to be unkind rather than kind, well then, I don't want you in my company.
Yeah. Or I don't want to work for your company.
Right, exactly.
The alternative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. This has been great. Thank you so much for joining us. Finally, this has been a wonderful conversation. I hope we get a chance to speak with you again soon. When you're a big, big star, I hope you'll remember the little people.
Always, always, always. And thank you so much for having me, Chad. I appreciate it. I'm glad we were finally able to make it happen. And I thank you again for having me on the show.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. See you soon.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. All right, I'm doing wrap up by myself. This is an awkward experience, not something I'm used to doing, but I will talk to you about a couple few things. First, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Katz A. Bosch, awesome accounting firm here in the Mid-Atlantic region. They've got tax, they've got audit, they've got business strategy, and they really do focus on the middle market construction community. So if you are in the market, they are folks you should consider for your accounting services. Then there is Lawrence Law. Lawrence Law is a boutique law firm based in Baltimore. They also have an office in New York. They have a very focused construction practice. They do a really good job with all of your legal needs. Please check out Lawrence Law. Sandy Spring Bank, which is my bank, regional bank here in the Mid Atlantic as well. And they do just a wonderful job being a part of their clients' businesses. They support and understand your business goals and help to support your financial needs. They work with tons and tons of contractors. I strongly endorse Sandy Spring Bank. And then lastly, Marsh McLennan Agency, which is a full service insurance and bonding company. So healthcare and surety and property and casualty and all of your insurance needs. And because of that big surety business, they have a huge contractor base. and really know their stuff when it comes to solving bonding issues that contractors run across. So thanks to those four for your sponsorship. We really appreciate the support of the show. As we look into next week, I just want to tee that up. We're going to be talking about PMP, Project Management Certification, with Jeremy Harrison. That'll be episode 74, not 73. And we'll be having a really good time learning about what it takes to be PMP certified. I think there are a lot of project managers who don't get a lot of great training in the industry, and they end up playing this role without much formal education, which I think shows. This is an opportunity to learn about how we change that, how you become more of a professional, and how you build a team of stronger professionals in project management roles. With that, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please spread the word. Go to the Morning Huddle ConstructionShow.com. If you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed and get on all of our wherever you get your podcasts and check us out if you can't catch us live on LinkedIn every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Talk to you soon.